Hey everybody. We're going to talk about a non-fantasy book today because I think it's important to prove that I don't just read fantasy. I don't have a physical copy of the book I want to talk to you about today. I lent it to somebody long ago and it has vanished. But today I want to talk about a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. And I also want to talk about Bill Bryson in general, but we'll start with A Walk in the Woods. Bill Bryson is an American who spent a good chunk of his life living in England and then eventually moved back to America. When he moved back here, he decided he wanted to really reconnect with America. And he did this in a couple of ways, and in this book he did it by hiking the Appalachian Trail. Now, you can check it for yourself. I'm going to mess up the stats, but the Appalachian Trail is over 1,000 miles long and runs through something like 19 states. It's crazy. It takes 2 to 3 months to hike it from beginning to end. Many people try, most fail. And Bill Bryson is not in hiking shape. He is an average shape older gentleman who decides to undertake this massive task. He recruits in this attempt, because he doesn't want to do it alone, an old friend of his who's in much, much worse shape than he is. There's a large comedic element to this book. It is completely nonfiction, by the way. There's a large comedic element to this book with these two older men and the trials and tribulations they go through trying to hike the Appalachian Trail. It is not an easy task in the best of conditions, and they never have the best of conditions. Bill Bryson, in writing this book, does what he does in so many books, is he alternates. Typically, it's a chapter on him and what he's doing and what he and his buddy are doing. It's a first-person narrative telling their story. Their real-life story of what happened. I can't verify that everything that happened is 100% true, but I am inclined to believe him. I have no reason not to. Then the next chapter will oftentimes be a chapter of facts, of research. This portion of the Appalachian Trail was founded da-da-da. Historically, da-da-da. This happened once. There have been reports of bear attacks here, and da-da-da-da-da. Now, the research portions are a little drier. They still have a little bit of comedy to them because Bill Bryson is a funny writer. He has a clever way with words. But he does tend to bounce back and forth like that. So you end up, by the end of the book, having acquired a great deal of information, which clearly I've forgotten most of. It's almost 2 books in one. It's a history of the Appalachian Trail, and then the very comical story of 2 people trying to hike it. And by the end of reading it, I guarantee you, at least at some point during this novel, you yourself will think about hiking the Appalachian Trail. Even I do. Every time I read it, I'm like, I could give it a shot. It's very interesting. Bill Bryson, so that's A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. They did make a movie of it fairly recently. The movie, it's okay. Read the book. He has written many books. A large number of them are travel books like this, Small Towns in England, Small Town America, Australia. He's written many books about various travels. They're all more or less presented in the same way. Very humorous accounts of his life in these various travels, and then chapters of facts and history. And some of it is absolutely fascinating. He also writes other types of books. He wrote the history of very nearly everything, which is attempting to take the complex scientific principles behind the Big Bang, physics, geology, all of that, and make it understandable in layman's terms with a touch of humor. There is that, in case you wanted to learn more about the world. Those are more of the research side of things, obviously, because it's not the story of how he was hanging out around the Big Bang. But it is very informative and still written in a humorous fashion. One of my favorites of his is called The Mother Tongue, which studies the history and evolution of English. I can understand why most people might not be that into that, but as a writer, I find it very interesting. And again, he's an engaging writer. It's fun to read what he writes. He also did the history of the house, how the modern house evolved to be in the shape that it is. Why we have bathrooms and bedrooms and living rooms and how it evolved into that. He's got a lot of stuff out there. So you can pick if you want to go get you some Bill Bryson travel logs or if you want to get you some Bill Bryson history knowledge. I think he also wrote one book of fiction. I haven't read it yet, so I can't really talk about it, but he has written a fiction book. But Bill Bryson, I recommend checking it out. I recommend starting with A Walk in the Woods. It'll give you a good taste of his writing style and whether or not you like it. Yeah, there's your non-fantasy book for today. See you guys next time.